Can Becky Lynch stand the test of time? Welcome back to the ACB Wrestling Talk channel, your main source for wrestling news, topics, discussions, previews, all that kind of good stuff. I am your host, Alexis Carrillo, and over the past few months, a certain superstar by the name of Becky Lynch has gone through one of the most transformative character arcs in wrestling history. Because if you ask any WWE fan out there, any wrestling fan out there for that matter as well, for the past year, for the past 2 years, Becky Lynch has always been that good old babyface, that great professional wrestler that you could rally behind if you really wanted to, because that's the kind of person and that's the kind of wrestler that she appeared to be on WWE television. But the thing is, with her character being so, for lack of a better word, bland, with her being such a bland babyface character, which, yes, again, you can get behind of, you can cheer for, because you could definitely cheer for the good old fighting babyface. She was never really the most popular. She was never really popular enough. In fact, out of the other 4 horsewomen, amongst them, people always talked about Charlotte Flair. People always talked about Sasha Banks. And fans, even when she was down in NXT and Becky Lynch was on SmackDown Live, people talked about Bayley in a higher regard than Becky Lynch. But something happened, something clicked, something changed. The fans wanted to cheer for Becky Lynch. They were tired of having Charlotte Flair rule over the SmackDown Women's Division, and they were ready for Becky Lynch to grab that brass ring and become SmackDown Women's Champion. And the big turn happened at SummerSlam, and the fans just ate it up. They were so enthralled with Becky Lynch now having this edge, and even to the point of now that she is the most over character on WWE television today. I mean, it's gotten to the point that even at Survivor Series, even at Raw, even last night on SmackDown Live, people chant Becky Lynch. Even when she's not a part of the show. They chant for the last kicker. They chant for the man, as Becky Lynch has named herself. But, and this is just my speculation, because I want to make this clear. I am a fan of Becky Lynch today. I am a fan of her character transformation. I am a fan of what she represents today. And like I said at the beginning of this video, in her first run as SmackDown Women's Champion, you could get behind her. She was the babyface that everyone loved, that everyone liked, rather, but not the most popular. So I always considered her bland, but now she's a little bit more interesting. But what I'm really putting doubts in is the fact that we live in a 10 or 0 world. Meaning that everything has either got to be perfect or it's got to be the worst thing in the world. You either have to love something or you have to hate it. There is no middle ground. And there are a lot of fans out there talking about how Becky Lynch is the best thing to happen to WWE in decades. There are a lot of fans comparing Becky Lynch to Stone Cold Steve Austin. And yes, those kind of comparisons have always bothered me, because I've always considered the fact that Stone Cold Steve Austin was the first Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, let Becky Lynch, or whoever comes after her, be the first Becky Lynch, or be the first that person. Don't compare, don't try to equate superstars to that, to eras of the past. Don't put the past on a pedestal. My big doubt right here with Becky Lynch is that even though she is hot right now, even though she is popular right now, 6 months from now, a year from now, Hell, after WrestleMania, will she still hold this kind of, level of fandom with the WWE Universe and with the IWC itself? Because we've had cases in the past. We talked all the way back in late 2009. Kofi Kingston was super over. He was beating the hell out of Randy Orton. And then it all stopped. And then people calmed down. They cooled down. And unfortunately, Kofi Kingston went back to the mid-card level. The same happened with Randy Orton. In 2010, people said he had a Stone Cold vibe to him. He went from being the most hated heel in WWE television to being an anti-hero, to the point that even back then, at the height of the PG era, Orton went as far as putting up his middle fingers in front of crowds on Monday Night Raw. And then it cooled down. Then we go to the Nexus, all the way back to the debut of that famous faction brought on by the first incarnation of NXT, where people talked about how the Nexus was going to be the next big stable in professional wrestling history, how the Nexus was going to be held in high regard as an NWO, as a DX, as a Four Horsemen, and then it wasn't. Going back as far as 6 years ago with Ryback, when they started pushing Ryback as the next Goldberg that wasn't Goldberg, fans ate it up. Fans wanted Ryback to be on top. And then it cooled down. And then fans weren't calling for Ryback. Even 2 years ago, you have the revelation, or the introduction rather, of Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss to the main roster, and them proving to WWE audiences that the Divas were in the past, and now these were women superstars, and they were at the top of the world. People were so happy to have Charlotte Flair and Sasha Banks and Alexa Bliss be a part of WWE storylines, and then they weren't. Like today, they kind of aren't. They aren't as high in that regard. Or if you don't want to go as far, you could go to earlier this year. Who was the first man? The first one to call himself the man. A guy by the name of Seth Rollins, who after his 65-minute plus performance in a gauntlet match on Raw, fans were just adamant that Seth Rollins had to be the guy in WWE. He was the most over superstar on WWE television. And if you look at it today, he's still over, but he's not the most over, and he is not as over as he was earlier this year. And if you look at all of these cases, yes, there's one common thread among all of them. Writing and booking. Writing and booking was botched in every single one of them. They had extreme potential to be some of the best angles in professional wrestling history, and the creative team, the writing team, botched it completely. And that's a big reason why that fandom high went down, why it cooled down. I agree with that. And it may play a case in maybe Becky Lynch cooling down in the next few months, in the next year. That may play a case. But here's the thing. Becky Lynch could reach a Daniel Bryan-esque level of fandom as Daniel Bryan was 4 years ago. Now, if you recall, Daniel Bryan suffered through all these same changes. In mid-2013, he was the most over guy in professional wrestling. And he became WWE Champion, and then he lost the title, and then he won the title again, and then he lost the title. And then WWE decided that we gave you Daniel Bryan. You wanted Daniel Bryan, we gave you Daniel Bryan, but he wasn't a part of the plan. So, we're going to revert back to our initial plan. We gave you what you wanted. We're going to revert back to our initial plan, and our initial plan was Orton versus Batista. And fans weren't having that. Fans wanted Daniel Bryan. They kept demanding Daniel Bryan through their chants in the crowds, and WWE had to save its WrestleMania main event. What I'm trying to say is here, yes, Daniel Bryan did suffer the fate of what others, many others in the past have, of bad booking and bad creative, but fans took so much of a liking to Daniel Bryan that even with that bad booking, even with that bad creative, they still wanted Daniel Bryan on top. Daniel Bryan's popularity overcame all of that. And that's what I'm wondering. That's why I want people to take a step back and give Becky Lynch time. Because one way or another, current WWE creative is not perfect. We all know that. So they're eventually going to botch Becky Lynch's creative storylines. And when that moment comes, if the fans still cheer on for Becky Lynch, if they are still adamant and not giving up on Becky Lynch, then maybe then we can consider the fact that Becky Lynch could reach a Daniel Bryan-esque level of fandom, which is kind of in the middle. Not to the top of the mountain, like a Mount Rushmore of WWE, which is Hulk Hogan, Stone Cold, The Rock, and John Cena fandom, where whether they were faces or heels, whether they were doing the best angle or the worst angle, they still got cheered, they still got booed, they still got reactions. No, not to that level, I don't think so. That takes a little bit more time. But maybe to a level of Daniel Bryan back then. Back in 2014. Maybe then. So all I'm asking you as a fan is to take a step back on Becky Lynch. And this is not just for Becky Lynch. This is for any other hot act that appears on the main roster in years to come. Because that will happen. That always happens in WWE. It will continue to happen. All I'm asking is cool down, cool your jets, give her time. Time heals all wounds, and time reveals everything. So, take a step back and just enjoy the moment for what it is. Just enjoy this Becky Lynch height of popularity that she's at for what it is. And hopefully, she can truly become and get to that level of Daniel Bryan and become the first woman superstar to get to that level. Because right now, she is the best character on WWE television. I really believe that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on that entire situation. If you have a different thought, if you have a different comment, or if you have predictions on what might happen with Becky Lynch in the future, leave your thoughts and comments and predictions and any other debates that you might have on the comment section below. If you follow wrestling news, topics, discussions, previews, all that kind of good stuff, consider subscribing. If you like this video, hit the like button. If you dislike this video, hit the dislike button. That's it for me. Till next time.